Hourly segment is brought to you by Goldstone Financial, helping you become financially independent at goldstonefinancialgroup.com.
Let freedom ring this afternoon at 2 with Sean Hannity, right before Joe Walsh at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. So the House Intelligence Committee could be voting today on the release of the Devin Nunes memo on FBI practices with respect to surveillance. And this is, again, a memo that's been made available to members of the House Republican Caucus. And there is a move to make this publicly available. Now, it's only interesting if you're interested in having certain questions answered, questions that Trey Gowdy, Republican from South Carolina, laid out on Chris Wallace's Fox News Sunday yesterday.
This memo is nothing but the distilling, the reducing of thousands of pages of documents provided to us by the department and the Bureau. So there's nothing in this memo that the department is not already aware of. If you think your viewers want to know whether or not the dossier was used in court proceedings, whether or not it was vetted before it was used, whether or not it's ever been vetted, if you are interested in who paid for the dossier, if you're interested in Christopher Steele's relationship with Hillary Clinton and the Democrat National Committee, then yes, you'll want the memo to come out.
You had me at dossier. Nice hook. Good tease. I'm interested.
Oh, yeah.
And Gowdy said, despite protestations to the contrary, mainly from Adam Schiff, or predominantly from Adam Schiff, who, again, is the Democrat who represents Area 51, so this is no hit job on the FBI. It's a distillation of information provided with respect to legitimate questions. And, oh, by the way, if that puts Comey or McCabe or Rosenstein in a bad light, too bad, so sad.
This memo answers what I think are really legitimate questions, and I do think the FBI should look at it before it is released. And I have provided that counsel to Chairman Nunes, and I think that he has taken that under advisement. So I want to play face-up poker. I want the Bureau to know everything that's in the memo. I think you'll be surprised. It is not a hit piece on the department and the FBI. I would not have participated in it if that's what it was.
So that's one issue. And the other issue is when is Congress going to get access to all of the Strzok Page, those lovebirds, crazy kids, Romeo and Juliet story, all the text messages that have been identified, but only, according to Byron York's reporting in the Washington Examiner, only about 15% of the total numbers of texts recovered have been provided to members of Congress. You have the FBI going through and vetting those text messages, including in conjunction with special counsel Bob Mueller's team. Boy, that presents all kinds of questions, too. For some answers to questions about FBI surveillance protocols, perhaps abuses, we're pleased to be joined by Michael Daugherty, who is a cybersecurity expert and the author of the book, The Devil Inside the Beltway, the shocking expose of the U.S. government's surveillance and overreach into cybersecurity, medicine, and small business. Okay, well, that's a lot of areas. Michael, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
So,
how are you guys doing?
Good. So tell us a little bit about what you know about how the deep state conducts its surveillance that may lead one, if you're a high-ranking official at the FBI, to be a little jumpy about the release of the Devin Nunes memo.
Well, what we've seen, I think the public has seen the past 5 years more than with their own eyes, is all sorts of corruption go down with no accountability at all sorts of levels. And I often called it the Eric Holder School of Law, which was so sue me. Yes, I'm going to break the law. So sue me. It will take you years and millions to get to an Article III judge. And so that's what happens here. Every agency that gets caught in some sort of corruption, whether it be the IRS or the FBI or whoever, always throws as many trash cans in the aisle as possible so they don't get into a court situation. And so you have wordsmithing and you have complete ignoring of congressional subpoenas and things like this. It's worse with the FBI and the DOJ when it happens because they are the law enforcement agency and it undermines their credibility. And it's a real issue because the FBI's long had a reputation of being politicized at the top from Hoover on, and it's settled down for quite a while. It's got much more of a professional image these days, basically because the speed of media and the speed of story. So this is a real issue for them, and I think you could hear the entire country guffaw when they said they lost the text messages. That's just, you just can't roll that way. So they've got a credibility issue that is seeping throughout their entire agency. It is impacting their ground people. It's impacting their reputation with investigations. People don't want to cooperate as much. They don't trust them as blindly.
Yeah. There is
that's a real problem.
Yeah, there is a corrosion of trust. But this, the FISA memos that could be released, could this be a big nothing burger?
No, I mean, I suppose it could be, but then whoever blew it out of proportion needs to get blowback on that. I suppose it could be, but I doubt it. If they really went to FISA courts and they really used a concocted piece of information to mislead the court, that is a massive no-no within any bar rule or any sort of a procedure. And so I'm hard-pressed to see it as a nothing burger, but I also know the other side. I mean, now that Debbie Wasserman Schultz has gone up in a plume of flame, we have Adam Schiff out there who's willing to circle and confuse and say anything, because that's what they do. It's the political playbook. It's the same play regardless of the situation, and the public needs to be more aware of it and not taking in on it.
Well,
that's why we want to see it.
Yeah, distill the Strzok Page deal for us a little bit more. I mean, I note that according to Byron York's reporting, again, in a number of instances in the text in which the two officials say, there are a number of instances where the two officials say they should switch the conversation to iMessage, which suggests they continue to talk about FBI business on their personal Apple phones. I wonder if Christopher Wray will pull a Jim Comey and go pressure Apple to help unlock the Strzok Page phones for the related content, like Comey did.
That's an excellent point. Now, what I'll say to look for, that's what we also have to look at, is what they don't do. One of the ways to survive controversy is to refuse to look at things. So this memo that the Democrats are screaming about has been available to all Congress people, and yet as of a week ago, only 10 Democrats wanted to look at it. So, intentional ignorance, willful blindness is another game they play.
But with respect to this, the 50,000 they've identified, but that's apart from the text between December 14th of 2016 and May 17th of 2017 that were declared missing a week ago, but now being recovered. So the total is apparently 50,000 plus the current unknown number of formerly missing texts, plus the number of communications that were done on their private Apple phones as opposed to their FBI-issued Samsung phones. And yet, so far, the Justice Department and Capitol Hill say that the total number that has been turned over to Congress is only about 15% of that. How would you interpret the process that's being followed here? What is the FBI trying to do or not do?
What every other political body tries to do when they're under scrutiny, and that is delay, 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 circle and confuse and silence. Those are the three big games. And because they exploit, the Twitter attention span of the American public, the political situation, they wait for the political landscape to change. One of the big things they're waiting for is they're crossing their fingers that the House goes blue so that the power to investigate is removed. So they're just dribbling the ball, running the clock, waiting for the election. And this is what they do in their content. This is so old, classic, written in stone political gamesmanship in Washington that most of the public doesn't understand. It's actually so routinely done, it's boring.
Now, President Trump's State of the Union first one is tomorrow night. What do you hope that he will address, and what should he address?
Well, he needs to look the American people right in the eye and inform them and remind them that if they want Washington to change, they better support him because he's their only hope right now. Congress is, if you take the Republican establishment, people like Lindsey Graham and Jeff Flake and that ilk, and you add them with the Democratic Party, you still have a supermajority of establishment people that want all of this to go away. They do not want Washington to become a center of accountability. No one in that town wants anyone to be held accountable for anything, which is why when these things come up, you see strange bedfellows. So he needs to do what Trump does, which is look him in the eye and speak right to the populace, and that's all. Because if the populace doesn't keep supporting him through this, they're going to get away with it.
He is Michael Daugherty, cybersecurity expert, author of the book "The Devil Inside the Beltway: The Shocking Expose of the U.S. Government's Surveillance and Overreach into Cybersecurity, Medicine, and Small Business." Michael, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.